Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Waco 7 years later. My name is Mel Popeye Moss, my co-host.
OG.
Mel OG Robbins. And today we're going to be going back to May 17th, 2015, and talking about the event from a different perspective. It will not be about the different groups. It will be about the law enforcement and their behavior then and their behavior today, because there are still bikers that are still feeling the effects of then, and they're still feeling it now. And we're gonna go back to the day it happened. And let me say this: we know that there were some events put on today, OG. They're in Waco, and we are sorry we couldn't be there. But our prayers and thoughts go out to the families that lost loved ones, out to the bikers that suffered at the hands of the law, that lost their jobs, some lost their families, and the list runs on and on of things that happened to them. And we're going to be talking about that tonight. We're going to be talking about that. And OG, let's go back to May 17th, 2015. And we were at a COCI meeting here in the DFW area. Now, this meeting here in the DFW area was going to be about the same it would have the same content that the video, that the event in Waco was for the COCI, Region 1. And OG, we were and still are used to having these events, these political events, move around.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we were in Dallas.
That's right. And we could have easily been in Waco.
We were asked to be there.
That's true.
And we said we couldn't be because we had to be in Dallas.
That's right. Our meetings were on the same day. Now, the COCI, per FBI testimony, is a legitimate political organization. There's no two ways about it. Because we had been working with our cohorts on legislation that year. And we had a bill that was fixing to go to the governor's desk for signature. And everybody was excited about it. That's what this whole thing was going to be about.
My allergies are just killing me.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. So we were at a meeting in Dallas, same type meeting, and we got word of what had happened. And of course, we're trying to figure out just why, what went on, how could this happen, and how lethal it was. But then, over the next 24 hours, as we were trying to figure out, what went on, what in the heck happened, and then we had let me pull it up in the cube. Then we had this guy show up, and of course we're still in the cube here. OG and I are, and I'm going to play a little bit of what he had to say. Is absolutely incredible. They came up with an incredible story. We may stop this at points that we want to comment on. And just wave at me, OG, if there's something you want to stop at. Let's listen to this. And I hope you don't have an echo on this.
All right, good morning. Those of you that don't know me, I'm Sergeant Patrick Swanton, the PIO for the City of Waco Police Department. With me today is Trooper D.L. Wilson from the Texas Department of Public Safety. He is the PIO for this area and has been an instrumental part of providing information to me and working with us. I will tell you this morning that there are things that I want you to know that you can expect from us. Number one is transparency. You will hear us tell you what we legally can, and we will be brutally honest at some points. Some of you may not appreciate that, but you will grow to respect that we're going to tell you what we feel and what we know is fact.
Let me say one thing right here.
What a lying sack of shit.
Let's say one thing right here. They were anything but transparent. They were anything but honest. Let's continue, everybody.
Well, hey, before we continue, through time, we came to find out that the Waco PD was very much involved in what happened that day in Waco way prior to the happening in Waco. As a matter of fact, there was a there was a TV interview with the president of one of the clubs down there, who ran a motorcycle shop with his son, who talked all about the Waco PD showing up 2 weeks before that meeting, wanting to know if they were prepared.
Yeah.
And this president of the local chapter there said, "Oh yes, we are very prepared." So, you know, for Waco PD to act like they didn't know what the hell was going on prior to the meeting, other than they had some intelligence it was going to be some meeting, they knew well in advance there was planned skullduggery. And it was very evident by the L-shaped ambush that they had set up.
Yeah. And it was an ambush, but let's keep going.
The first thing that I want to mention is the absolute utmost support that we have received from our community, to include Waco and the surrounding area. I've been here going on 35 years, and I have never seen the kind of outpouring of support that we have got from our businesses, our citizens, and the community leaders in reference to this tragic event that unfolded here Saturday or Sunday afternoon.
Let me say something right there, OG. They got support from the community because they'd been out there and they set a narrative that was scaring the hell out of everybody, accusing bikers of wanting to come and attack police officers, wanting to attack the city, any other type of thing they could think of, any innuendo they could throw out there. So let's continue.
That goes from everything from the cooperative team effort between every single law enforcement agency in our area. They have provided troops, they have provided equipment, they have provided anything that we have asked for, and it is amazing to see that kind of law enforcement effort.
One thing right here, when he says troops, that was true literally, because there were law enforcement officers everywhere from just about every state entity, and including Homeland Security, and the list runs on.
We personally, now I can't say the day of Waco, the incident, but when we ran the first wave, shortly thereafter, Popeye and I personally ran in to two individuals from Homeland Security at the what store
that
was that?
West Texas.
Yeah, in West Texas at the what's that shop we stop at?
Man, you would ask me that. That's the
Polish place.
It'll come to me at midnight.
And
OG.
there they were in stormtrooper boots with their vest on, loaded with 30-round magazines.
That's true. That's true.
Ready for war.
Let's continue.
Down to the jail staff that has been booking 170 individuals all night long. They were called in at a moment's notice and came in without hesitation to assist in getting 170 individuals processed, booked, which was a lengthy effort. From the jail staff to the medical staff at our jails, to the law enforcement officers that are out here working the streets, to the law enforcement officers that are providing security for you folks here on the media scene, a bottom of our heart, thank you for what you're doing. The hospitals and the businesses have been instrumental. This has been a monumental task for us in law enforcement. You see the amount of officers that are here and have been working. We have not been hungry. We're fat enough as it is sometimes, but I can assure you our businesses have made sure that we maintain our physiques, if you will. Yes, we've eaten donuts too, and we appreciate those. Those have been very helpful. I'm going to move into the brutally honest part at this point. I would ask you to continue responsible reporting. If you don't know that it's a fact, please come to me and I will give you that information if I can. I will tell you if it doesn't come from myself or Trooper D.L. Wilson, it is not authorized to leave this scene. And the information you get may be a best guess. Now we'll move back on to information.
Wait a minute. He's right there. It would be a best guess. A best guess. Because there was not a proper investigation being done, and as of today, there never has been. Here we go.
The release of names is not being done yet until we are able to notify next of kin. We're having issues doing that. The issues are some of the players in this are not being honest with us. We have people calling in saying they are family members trying to find out who's killed and who is injured. Until we know that we have made a specific contact with each of the individual deceased, we will not release those names. That should be coming pretty quickly. We are working feverishly to get those families notified. I said very early on, we believe that this was a criminal event that occurred here. However, those that are injured and deceased are human beings.
Now, that was a lie right there. There was no criminal event. There was a meeting, a legitimate political meeting. But he's trying to paint everybody with a broad brush.
Beings, and we will treat them with the utmost respect that we can. High number of people jailed, killed, or injured were not from the Waco area. We know that is a fact. Many of them were not from the local Waco community. There is a wide list of where they are from. Once we get that information, we will share that with you and let you know where they are from. We won't guess on facts. We will tell you specific facts that are knowledge to us.
Well, they should have known that Waco is part of Region 1. They should have known this, but there's a lot of things they knew nothing about. They didn't even care to investigate it. They didn't care anything. And this is prior to everything that went down as they were plotting and planning whole thing.
Let me play devil's advocate.
Okay, go ahead.
That lying son of a bitch knew exactly what comprised Region 1.
Yes.
He twisted it to make it sound the way they wanted it to sound, like everyone was coming to Waco to commit murder.
Yeah. And
that's what I believe.
Yeah. And like we said, they often, and so does up here and other COCI regions do the same thing. They will move the meetings around. Here we go.
Those that were injured, of the 18 that went to hospitals, 7 remain in our local area hospitals. All are stable and most are improving. I will tell you, as a law enforcement officer, if something happens to me in the line of duty, I am glad I live in Waco, Texas. Our hospital staff has been commendable in what they've done treating an extreme trauma event. They were amazing in how they handled the number of injured that were brought to them in a moment's notice.
Let me say something right here. He's talking about the wonderful medical service that was rendered.
Oh, yeah.
Those lowlifes let more than one lay on the ground and bleed, and one of them bled to death that I'm aware of.
That's true.
You know, so there was no immediate medical response or wonderful medical response.
No.
People bled to death because those lowlifes let them lay there and they watched it.
Yes.
While brothers begged for help.
Yes, that is true.
Okay.
That is so true.
We were not staffed for that, but immediately did so. There was not a single trauma patient that had to wait for care, and we think that is absolutely extraordinary of our local hospital.
Are you kidding me? Let me tell you, there is a place in hell for this man. And not only for this, but
he needs to be tarred and feathered and run out of town.
Yes, he does.
Good
yes, he
grief.
Does.
Okay, to Sunday's event, here's what we know, and here's what has been fact from the detectives that are working the crime scene still currently behind us. There was a planned meeting of one group of biker members. That meeting is a coalition of several bike groups that were invited to come to Twin Peaks Restaurant. They had rented out or asked for the outdoor bar area specifically for a meeting that they were having of a group of invited biker gangs.
There we go.
Wrong.
Invited biker gangs. They've got to throw that. They've got to throw that in there to set the narrative.
And actually, the meeting was being held inside. The outside bar was for overflow. Nobody rents anything. Arrangements are made ahead of time with these places for the venue because they know there are a couple hundred people coming that are going to be ordering meals.
There you go.
And drinking beer.
Yeah.
We know an additional biker gang that was not invited to this meeting showed up. Hence what we were calling somewhat of a turf war, if you will. When those individuals
Let's talk about invitation, okay?
Yeah.
Let's talk about invitation. The Texas, at that point, it was the Texas Coalition of Clubs. Today it is known as the Texas Council of Clubs and Independents. The Coalition of Clubs and the Council of Clubs do not issue invitations. We put out a flyer inviting the public in general.
Yes.
You don't necessarily have to ride a motorcycle to come to the meeting. You can be an independent. You can belong to a club. It is a political group that discusses legislature and bikers' rights. That's all it is. Nobody is disinvited. Nobody is invited. It's an open meeting to the public.
And you know, OG, if I remember right, they were told by the Waco PD to go there and work out their problems.
That's right.
Let's let's let the liar keep
There
on.
was a disturbance in the parking lot, and I mentioned that early on. We thought that was about a parking issue. We still believe that that may have been what it was. I have additional information this morning that may have been gone or may go beyond a parking incident to somebody had their foot run over and started the disturbance in the parking lot. We have crime scenes inside and outside of Twin Peaks Restaurant. Those crime scenes include bathroom areas, the restaurant areas, and the bar areas. It's my understanding that there was some type of altercation inside. We know that we have blood on the inside of Twin Peaks, as well as numerous pieces of evidence, both inside and out. It is a lengthy process for those investigators to attempt to determine exactly what occurred when you have people not being truthful with us about what went on inside and outside the club. I'm sorry, the restaurant. We will figure it out. When will we figure that out? I can't give you a timeline. Obviously, you see all the moving pieces and parts of this. We do know that we have crime scene inside and outside, and we know that assaults occurred inside and outside the establishment. That brings us to where we are today. Obviously, the investigation has been ongoing and will continue, if not for weeks, for months. What we are doing still at the scene behind you is processing evidence. We have picked up most of the important pieces of evidence, blood evidence, bullet fragments, shell casings, and weapons. What we're continuing to do, as we did yesterday afternoon, is we are moving motorcycles and vehicles from the scene.
Let me say one thing right there. They got out there and swept the area of fired rounds of brass and everything else.
Well, they got rid of most.
Protecting their
I was going to
asses.
say, most of the evidence they picked up was to cover their own ass.
That's right.
They cleaned up, they policed their own brass.
Yes.
Some of you that were here late last night saw that start. That is a lengthy process as well. As you could tell, when a wrecker or a flatbed left here loaded with motorcycles, it was heavily escorted by our SWAT team and patrol officers from Waco PD to get them safely where they were going. We believe we have at least 80 cars and pickups still to remain at the scene that we will need to remove. Most of those, for one reason or another, contain evidence or have been involved in the crime scene where we believe they are evidence.
They jumped right on capital asset forfeiture.
On this scene this morning, who is working in cooperation with the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, OG, I can't remember who it was, but they were talking gleefully about of all the asset forfeitures and
That's
all
right.
those motorcycles and the amount of money they were all worth and the vehicles. The list runs on and on.
And they couldn't wait to call the lien holders on those vehicles and let
Yes.
them know that they had been impounded, so the lien holders would immediately repo the vehicle.
Exactly, and that's exactly what happens.
Yep, and you know, we're talking about people that haven't even been indicted, let alone proven guilty.
Hadn't had a proper investigation.
There are people today that still have not had personal property returned from that incident 7 years ago.
Here we go. Let's go back and listen to some more.
And the Texas Department of Public Safety Criminal Intelligence Division are working their tails off on this scene. I will tell you that they have had extremely limited number of hours of sleep, and kudos to those guys. I have the easy job telling you what they're doing. I would not want their responsibilities as they are insurmountable.
DPS is kind of like the FBI. It just gives you all kinds of confidence, doesn't it?
Oh, you know, I'd rather talk to a used car salesman.
Yeah.
appreciate the efforts of all of the detectives and all of the units and all of the agencies that are assisting in helping us gather information to put together a rock-solid investigation. What we anticipate today is to continue moving the motorcycles and the cars away from the scene. There are approximately 135 motorcycles that will need to be removed from the crime scene and transported to a secure location. Again, that process has been ongoing through the night and will continue throughout the day. As far as updates, that is probably the most that you're going to get from us today. I will try to answer a few questions. Trooper Wilson is going to assist me with that and try to keep me on track. I would ask that you listen to the questions that your fellow reporters ask, and let's try not to repeat so we can get through. With the large number of you here, please let me call on you as to shouting at me. And for those of you that are on the opposite side, I will repeat the question so everybody knows what the question is. Fair game? Sir.
I want to say something right here. We had somebody here on the chat line tell us that it says they never notified next of kin. We found out Dad passed when, I can't get that, when Channel 12 News
KSAT
knocked on our doorstep. Unbelievable, everybody.
That was Mohawk.
That was Mohawk. Unbelievable. Here we go.
Event last. From the start of it, from the so-called this man getting his foot run over in the parking lot to the point the last shot was fired, how long did it all last?
The question was, how long did the initial violence last at the scene, meaning the original shooting? I know that we were there within seconds, if not at least a minute. Our officers were...
They were there already. Their snipers were lined up, and they opened fire just as fast as they could. We called it day one. We said it was a Valentine's Day law enforcement massacre, and by golly, that's exactly what it was.
And let me say this, OG. Listen here, everybody. Listen here. None of this needed to happen. None of it. They were already there. They were already there. All they had to do, and they claimed they were there in plain sight, but all they had to do is go up into that parking lot and have a presence. None of this would have happened. All they had to do is go into the restaurant, have a presence. They could have went in and bought lunch, even if they thought they didn't have the right to go in there. None of this needed to happen. They did not need to go to the clubhouse of the Cossacks and encourage them to go there. They did not need to do that. And let me tell you, at this point, and I don't know that we ought to continue listening to the news media there. Do you think we should?
No, I think we got maybe a little more later.
Okay, let's do a little more. Let me swing it back and we'll go.
On scene and approached it once we saw that there was a disturbance. I can't give you an exact timeline. That is something that will be determined by investigators' review of evidence, investigators' review of our in-car cameras, and investigators' review of any other potential video sources that may be in and around the area. I can tell you that it happened very quickly. Our response was instantaneous once we realized there was trouble. When we got on scene, shots were still being fired, shots were fired at our officers, and we returned fire. Yes, sir.
In regards to threats to law enforcement, are there still threats to law enforcement? Can you elaborate on the type of threats?
Let's stick with that. The question is, have there been threats to law enforcement since we have been here? Absolutely.
Oh, here we go.
Credible, reliable threats towards law enforcement in and around our area. I will tell you those have toned down a bit over the past 24 hours. We are absolutely thankful of that. I made mention last night that there has been enough tragedy and there's been enough bloodshed in Waco, Texas. We would appreciate there not being any more.
Let me say this, and they had put out, before the news conference before this one, they had put out that bikers were coming to attack law enforcement, that bikers had raided the armory down in Fort Hood. I mean, we don't know if they're coming to town with Molotov cocktails. We don't know what's going to happen. I mean, they were throwing it out there like crazy, and naturally, it's coming from the DPS, just like we've seen them do time and time and time again. It's absolutely incredible, but they were doing that, and none of it was true. None of it. There was nobody coming to attack police. There were nobody coming to attack the citizens of Waco. That was just a outright lie and narrative, false statement, whatever you want to call it. That's what it was.
Well, you know, something else that was never talked about. When they did all their ballistics bullshit.
Yeah.
The media nor the prosecutor never talked about all the little 5.56 bullet holes
Oh, yeah.
in the bodies and the people that were wounded. We knew somebody whose boyfriend got shot off his bike.
Yeah.
He was wounded. He didn't even have time to get off his bike, and they fired at him. They didn't talk about where those little 5.56 rounds came from or what kind of guns they were fired from. We know that, bikers don't carry around an AR-15 in their boot
No.
or in their pants. Most of them that we know carry a 9mm.
Yeah.
So how come there were so many people shot up with a 5.56?
And also,
they never talked about
the
it.
accuracy of the shots, because I can tell you, most bikers are not great shots. They don't spend hours on the firing range. They're just not. And so, I mean, what they were busy doing in their early investigation was covering their own asses. That's what they were investigating. They were investigating to make sure they were covered. They were covered. Because soon after this, right here, Abel Reyna, this guy right here, the McLennan County DA, Abel Reyna, stepped in, took over the investigation, took it over. And I promise you, everybody, I promise you, there was never a proper investigation done. All that was done was what Sergeant Swanton said, the Piggly Wiggly man. All it was done was enough investigating to cover their own butts. That's what they did. And so we got involved. We got involved when we finally were able to see the video of what these people were saying, Sergeant Swanton and all these talking heads that came up to the microphone early on. And they put out this crazy narrative. And then we found out that they had been put under $1 million bonds, everybody. $1 million bonds by this guy, Pete Peterson. Now, he looks like a used car salesman. He looks like a used car salesman. That's true. He could be. But he's the justice of the peace there in McLennan County. Now, he is the one that put everybody under a $1 million bonds.
Carbon copy.
Carbon copy. For everybody. He's the one that did this. And let me tell you, I do not know if he really has the authority to do that. It is unconstitutional.
It was said many times he did not specifically have that authority.
So, but this is what happened. And we saw people in jail that we had worked with in the Capitol building on legislation for at least 2 or 3 years for us.
Yes.
And we knew these people. We knew they were stellar individuals. But they got caught up in this thing because they rounded up and arrested everybody they could, or everybody they wanted to, because there was those that they let go. But then again, they arrested everybody they wanted to. And so it just, it set a fire underneath us, because that's what we're about, the Constitution and people that's had their constitutional rights violated. So then we planned these rallies. The first one was in I think June.
It wasn't too awfully long after
Yeah.
that happened. It wasn't
I think
more than
June.
a couple
I
of
think
weeks.
it was around June 7th. Now, I do have all these rallies stored, but we have advanced since then, and it's in one of these computers I have here in the studio, and so I've got to go find those and put those in the archives properly.
The first wave, we had all the major TV channels were there. There was a helicopter there. HBO came to town.
Yeah, HBO.
As a matter
rode
of
with
fact,
us.
HBO rode with us. One of the gals rode on the back of one of our bikes.
Yeah.
Well, the van scooted by occasionally and filmed. There had to be in excess of 150 bikes on that first wave.
Yeah, coming down the highway.
What was interesting was the first time around, they'd always want to interview us, and you could tell by the way they were talking and the questions they were asking, they were really believing everything that pig Swanton had to say.
They were believing it all.
They believed all the propaganda.
And they were regurgitating every bit of it.
But long about the third wave, I remember there was a guy from Channel 10 or Channel 11 that told me that this whole thing started to sound like a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were looking at it a little harder. We had a gal from the Associated Press that stayed in touch with us. It just went on and on and on.
Matter of fact is, OG, the Associated Press were the first ones that started questioning the weapons count that went from, at first it was over 1,000 weapons. Then it was 750.
Well, you got to look at what they were counting as weapons. pretty ludicrous.
Each boot was a weapon. Your vest chains that you have, they said was could be used as brass knucks.
That'd hurt like hell.
Yeah. And if you had a
and I'm not talking about who you'd hit.
if you had a wallet
it
chain,
would hurt you. Yeah.
yeah, it would hurt me. But it was ridiculous what they were calling weapons. They even called a vest a weapon. And a plaque. I remember seeing a plaque in this pile of weapons. Yeah. So they eventually got it down to 350, and I don't know if they got it any lower than that, but it kept going down, 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 because they were beginning to question what they were saying. And as we went along, as we did wave after wave over 4 years, and we did 7 of them, And then we found out we could that they had so many sheriff deputies and so many people that at first they had snipers hid in the windows. They had all kinds of stuff going on, and in the parking lots adjacent to us, they had all kinds of stuff, all kinds of people watching us. And we told them it was going to be a peaceful event, and they were by design. They were by design. Just about anybody was welcome to speak. And the lawyers for the bikers actually on each side came to speak, and we'd let them. We let them. We didn't deny anybody, and of course we weren't pointing fingers at anybody except Waco PD, the law enforcement, and the courts. Now, when that started, and law enforcement asked me why, or asked OG here, why we weren't over at the police station.
The statement was, how come you guys don't set up your protest over there? They're the ones that caused the problem.
Yeah, they did say that, but all the action at that point was in the courtrooms. Or it took a long time to get to the courtrooms. As in the beginning, let me put him back up here again. In the beginning, Abel Reyna decided that this going after the biker gangs was going to propel him to the governor's mansion, or maybe to the Attorney General's office, Texas Attorney General's office. That's what he thought was going to happen. What he thought was going to happen. Now, at that point, he had taken over the investigation, and I really do think it pissed off the other law enforcement entities.
Well, yeah, the minute he showed up at the crime scene,
yeah,
that very day, he assumed charge of the investigation.
Yes.
Which was totally way off the rails.
Yeah.
Never happens. Is not supposed to happen. The prosecuting attorney is supposed to make sure that whatever law enforcement comes up with is a prosecutable case.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like the disinterested party that's saying, okay, bring me the goodies. If the goodies are good, we'll prosecute.
Yeah.
So how the hell can the prosecutor come up with all the evidence and not say, well, we need to press forward here?
Especially if his investigators aren't worth a damn.
That's right. That's right.
And so...
And that proved to be true during the trial.
Yeah, it did. It's absolutely incredible, everybody. But as we went along there, it took a long time to get... Because Abel Reyna was waiting for bikers to cave. It was going to be, who's going to cave first and take a plea bargain? He was waiting on them. He was waiting on them.
They were betting on it.
Yes.
That was their major downfall. They were betting on the fact that bikers would fold and take a plea bargain rather than stand tall for something they weren't guilty of.
Let me say this. Waco, the Waco courts and the Waco DA is not the FBI. They're not the feds. There was no way they were going to handle, at that point, they arrested 170 something. At first it was actually, I think, 200. Then they whittled it down to 170. And I think the final number of people that were going to go to trial, or supposedly go to trial, was like 154.
Yeah, somewhere around.
Yeah,
there.
they were never going to be able to handle that. And so, as we were going to doing these waves and doing these protests, we noticed that all these sheriff deputies, all these people on a Saturday, at first. I think we did them on Saturday. I don't know. Maybe we did Sunday. Maybe we started out there. But we noticed they were having to pay these people a lot of overtime or comp time. So we said, well, we better make sure we do this on Sundays on double time.
And it wasn't just law enforcement. They were barricading off the streets.
Yeah.
Bringing in porta potties.
Oh, yeah. It was nice.
It was
was
pretty
nice
cool.
of them.
Pretty cool.
Cordial, yeah. But we were also a surprise to them because we were well behaved. You know, and let me give credit here. We weren't the first ones to do a protest. There were some other people, some citizens around Waco there that were actually the first ones to get out there and take on the county, take on the police. I think it was
some Second Amendment guys,
yeah,
wasn't it?
I believe it was some Second Amendment guys.
Yeah, they got there either the day before or the week before.
I think it was the week before we went there. It was you know what? That was they had some balls to do that.
Yeah, considering it was a very small number of them.
Yeah. But here we came with depending on who you listen to, the one of the stations said there was 1,000 bikes.
Well, there could have been, because I know
at the high point.
Yeah, there was another group of bikers that met up with us while we were on the way down, because we led the wave out of the DFW area.
Yeah, and there was a wave out of East Texas.
And what was it, 2 million bikers to D.C. when that was organized.
Mm-hmm.
A good friend of ours was kind of in charge of that group, and he had a big group out of, it was pretty much East Texas.
East Texas, right.
They met up with us at a gas station, and the group became even bigger. And there were folks out of Houston. I mean, hell, there were people from out of state. I remember some people from Tennessee, Arkansas.
And the East Texas guy was John Bostic.
Yep.
That's who that was. Yeah. Absolutely incredible. But from that point on, now here we go to the trials. And at that point, it had been a few years. And we were getting ready to and geared up at the time to go, also at the same time, to go after Abel Reyna, looking for his replacement.
And Swanton was running for sheriff.
That's right. We were going to make sure that didn't happen. Oh, yeah. We went after him over Second Amendment issues.
Right.
Yeah. So Swanton failed. And so we set our sights on Abel Reyna. At the same time, what was going on in the courts.
Is Swanton still on the PD?
I don't know. I started to look at that.
I thought maybe he retired and went back to being a bag boy at Piggly Wiggly.
Yeah, it was, and then came the trials. And, all of a sudden, the people that were going to testify for Abel Reyna, testify for the prosecutor, all of a sudden they either came up with amnesia or some type of brain disorder that turned them into morons, because they were not believable, and the expert witnesses that were brought in were not believable. Matter of fact is, most of the expert witnesses were nothing but former CIs, former undercovers.
And you can really believe a confidential informant.
That's right. And all they were there to do is make money. That's all they were there for. Notoriety to make money. And somehow Abel Reyna thought all that was going to lead him to a conviction of Jake Carrizo. The only one that actually had a trial.
Yeah,
And
they thought that would be their juicy takedown.
The thing about it is, let me say this, there is no court in Texas that are going to convict you of trying to defend yourself. They're just not going to do it. No matter which side you're on. If you got somebody who's trying to take you down and you're trying to defend yourself, they are not going to convict you. Unless, unless they've stacked the jury. And they tried that. They tried to get a police officer as jury foreman.
Yes, they did.
That was involved in the case. Now they might have succeeded with that if we and others wouldn't have raised hell, because we did. And you know what? The citizenry there in McLennan County, they did also.
And you know why? Because as we dug in deeper and deeper, we found out just how dirty the Waco PD really is. They've got officers that intimidate and try and mess around with young college co-eds.
Yes.
A few moms came forward and talked to us about that. Just all the lewd little happenings in and around Six-Shooter Junction.
Yes, exactly right. And you know what? When we asked them, hey, why don't you do something? Why don't you say something? Why don't you file against these people? They said, hell, we've got to live here. And they lived in fear of the law. They lived in fear of campus police. And they feared the courts. They feared the courts. That's the truth. Because what exists there is a good old boy system of law enforcement, of judges, all of them colluding with each other. And it still goes on today. Not only there, but in Milam County, Parker County, the list runs on and on. There are good old boy systems all across this state, including in the DFW area.
Actually, Waco was the wake-up call.
It really was. And let's move to that.
Okay, because that was the wake-up call. We are aware of the crap that's been going on ever since. There's Milam County. That's the one Patrick's involved in,
yes.
Right? With the gang database, where got a guy that's never been convicted of anything. He gets stopped by a trooper. Doesn't even know he's in the gang database. The trooper runs him. He's in the criminal gang database, and now he's in court over felony charges for carrying a gun when he had a concealed carry permit to begin with. So they've been trying to drag that one on and on, because that's another embarrassment for the state. You've got laws in conflict. And we are pretty sure that they're not going to be able to do in Patrick with any kind of a sentence, but we are going to stay on top of that one.
Yeah.
But there you go. You've got incident after incident occurring in the state. Waco being the wake-up call. we have to jump up and down and make a hellacious noise.
Yeah.
Anytime any of this happens, we have to be prepared to go there and protest the hell out of it.
Yeah. And let me say this, and from that point on, you know, and our governor is in love with these gang databases. And since Waco, there has been motorcycle profiling. And I'm going to show you one here from 2014. I'm sure everybody's seen this. It's all over YouTube. But I'm going to show it to you. And listen to this for a minute or two.
One or two ways. Do it down at the jail or do it here outside.
It has to be done. I'm
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
If it has to be done, does this happen to everybody? I'm just curious why it's me. Why am I getting detained for this? I'm going to school right now and you're detaining me. You're preventing me from
Yeah, we
doing
pulled you over. Okay, let's act like we just pulled you out of the air.
What'd you
and
pull me
brought
over
here,
for?
okay? We pulled you over for failing to use your signal.
Did I receive a ticket?
You're not going to receive a ticket, okay? But what I'm telling you is,
Okay,
We're gonna take
this is new
pictures
to
of
me,
you.
sir. I'm sorry. This is new to me. It's
okay,
just
well,
shocking.
let me talk and stop interrupting me.
I don't feel like going to jail. I got class to go
Well, I'm
to.
not telling you you're going to jail right now, but I'm telling you if you don't allow us to take your pictures out here,
Can I call my
we're
lawyer?
going to go down to the jail and take pictures down there, okay? No, you can't call your lawyer right now,
Okay, take the pictures.
okay? That's all I thought.
Take your helmet off, please.
You want me to hold this or you want to hold it?
Whatever you want me to do.
Okay, yeah, let's hold it.
Taking my pictures, profiling me.
Can you hold it?
So the 13 lines here.
You have anything on your chest or anything like that? Your stomach, on your back? Unzip your vest and pull your shirt up for me. Okay. A little bit higher. Nothing on your back or anything?
So they're stripping him down
Yeah.
on the side of the road. And this is Austin, Texas.
This is a little humiliating, don't you think?
Let me say this. That was in 2014. 2014.
Well, I mean, they didn't have, they weren't sure.
Let me set that up. So that was in 2014. At least that's what I read. I think that may have been after Twin Peaks. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I thought it was after Twin Peaks, but
We'll clarify that. But that was Cody. And Cody did file suit against the city of Austin. And yes, he did win. But let me tell you this. This is when it let us know that the body cameras, wearing a body camera is so important to your safety and well-being when you're pulled over by a law officer. Whether you're in a 1% club, an MC, because traditional MCs have been pulled over. We've even seen the instance where a slickback was pulled over and profiled.
yep. Even an independent should have a camera.
That's right.
You never know.
And I was profiled in my vehicle taking my granddaughters out to Texas Tech in Lubbock.
Because you had a decal in your rear window.
I had my Sons of Liberty Riders MC decal on the rear window. He followed me for a ways and then pulled me over. And then you know why? It's going to be for the same reason this next thing I'm going to show you. As soon as OG gets finished correcting some stuff over here on the chat line. And here we go. And this next one I'm going to show you here, is also, if I can get the thing to cooperate, here we go. Now, what's this next one?
How you doing, sir?
All right, sir. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Sir, the reason why you were stopped is because on your license plate, you have the little reflectors on the corners. I couldn't see what the first letter or number was.
Okay.
So I had to run it a few times. So that's why you stopped, because your license plate is obscured.
Okay.
Nope.
That's the same reason they stopped me for, Mel. The goofy reason is because my license plate was obscured.
Yeah.
And it wasn't to the point that he couldn't see the letters. It was just over it a little bit. And so, but there are thousands of those Texas Tech license plates around Texas. You know, the ones that said the different colleges, U.S. Navy, Air Force, all that stuff you put around your license plate. Yeah. But let's continue. We find out more here.
No part of the letters, numbers, or color can be covered. So finally, when I figured it out, what it was, it shows that you're expired at.
Right.
Okay. This your motorcycle? This? Okay. Do you have your driver's license insurance on you?
My phone died.
Okay.
That's where I have my insurance.
Okay. I can check it on my system then, though. Thank you. You still live here in Austin, Texas?
I do, but not at that address.
Not at this address.
With my daughter.
Okay. Are you a concealed carry?
No.
You don't have any
No,
weapons on
I
you?
have a knife on me.
Okay. And again, this is your motorcycle?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Praetorians?
Yes, sir.
Never heard of them. How long y'all been around?
A while.
A while? A couple years? All right. Have you been a member a while?
Yes.
Yeah?
A few years.
Right around? Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with your insurance
Cut-
card, right?
cut that for-
and
for a
your, and
second.
your driver's.
Now, the reason he's engaging him in conversation is, and you all need to be aware of this, in Texas, once you're stopped, they're on a clock, and it's a 20-minute clock.
Yep.
That's all the longer they're supposed to have you stopped, as long as you do not engage in conversation with them. So the reason that officer is asking those questions about the patch, because that has nothing to do with the stop. He is trying to engage this biker in conversation so he can now open it up to an unlimited time for the stop. And he is successful.
License, it's all good?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. The reason why I asked about the Praetorians and all that stuff is because I see you're an affiliate of the Banditos and you support their group. So what I'm going to do is, because I've never heard of you guys, I've worked around a lot of motorcycle clubs back in Bear County, like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a picture of your bike and the symbol on your jacket and stuff like that. I'm going to take a picture of you, and I'm going to.
Why is that?
Well, because I'm going to document you as an affiliate, okay, through CCP 61. Okay, if you looked that up, if you heard of that one, if you read that before, through CCP 61, criminal.
Now that video right there told us at that time what the CCP, 61.02, that's when we discovered the reason that they're pulling us over, and they're mandated to do it, everybody. They're mandated to do it.
Yeah, if the population is over a certain number in a county, they are mandated to maintain a gang database.
Here we go, everybody.
Code of criminal procedure, rather, 61. That
I'm not affiliated with the Bandito.
well, it shows that you support them. Okay, and I know you and
Police officers too.
well, sir, and I know you need their permission in order to have that rocker on the top and the bottom to have on that vest. Okay, if you didn't get it directly, somebody in your club did, and then they told you, yeah, it's okay, we can have that on our vest. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. You are going to get a citation because the registration that is pretty expired. All right, and you're going to get a warning for the obscured license plate.
Okay.
All right. So just give me a few moments and I'll be right back, sir. All right.
The point was made.
30.
Okay. Like I said, this is the point we learned about that. And we learned something off of every one of these videos that we get and that is posted on YouTube and everywhere else. And there are many, many, many more of them. 2019, there was a rash of motorcycle profilings all over the state, instigated by Governor Abbott.
Good old Governor Abbott put the word out to the DPS that he needed more names in the gang databases. Go out and get them. They get federal funding for that. There is supposed to be legislation in place that is supposed to be regulating that. And you know what? To date, no one is real sure exactly how many databases exist, who's in charge of them. You're supposed to be able to get your name off of the gang database, and nobody's been able to do that so far.
But there is one group, the Grim Guardians.
Oh yeah, the Grim Guardians got their organization removed. So you know, we're working on that right now to try and get bills passed in the legislation dealing with the gang database.
Yeah, and that was there is legislation before that has passed the House chamber and is headed toward a Senate committee. Now there is a CTA out right now, number 5. You can find it, Texas Defenders Region 2
on Facebook.
Yes, or you can find it at Texas COCI. You can read that CTA, follow the instructions. It's simple. It's just sending a letter to our Lieutenant Governor.
I believe that's cocdfw.com.
Yeah. Send a letter to our Lieutenant Governor, asking him to support our bill and make sure it gets sent to a committee before the legislature runs out of time and it dies right there. If you care anything about this, because a lot of this stuff that's going on is remnants of what happened in Waco. Because law enforcement and the courts have had their way with us for years. There are, like OG said, there are many people that still don't have their properties back. There are many people that are still suffering from what happened May 17th, 2015. Families are still suffering. People are still suffering, maybe monetarily, because they lost jobs, well-paying jobs. Maybe they lost a security clearance, or maybe they can't get a security clearance for, like that police officer just did, put him into a gang database. But he also said, hey, I'm mandated to do this. Well, you know what? There are plenty of laws that violate our constitutional rights that they don't enforce. Then again, there are laws that do that do violate our constitutional rights that they do enforce. And it is up to the state legislature, and it's up to us to see that it gets cleaned up. And that's what this show is all about. That's what we're all about. It's about trying to clean this mess up and get some due process. And get our constitutional rights within Texas and other places around the country. Have our constitutional rights restored, not ignored. That's what we're working on. And that's the reason we're doing this show tonight, and that's the reason it's all about the law and the courts. We can't let this continue. But you know what? The people in this country are seeing just how awful our courts are, whether they be at the national level, whether they be at the state level, whether they be at your city level. They all work in collusion. And you would like to think they are on the up and up, and your constitutional rights are withheld in a court of law. But when you see them behave the way they've been behaving for the last 40 years against bikers, against citizens, it's insane. And we've been seeing it for a long, long time, what the average citizen is just now seeing. And OG, you got anything in closing? Something we should add?
No, I think we pretty well covered it. I mean, the important thing now is we need to continue to make a hell of a lot of noise out there.
Yeah.
There are gang databases, and we'll talk about it on other broadcasts. There are gang databases in other states where there is a lot of abuse going on. There are children being placed in gang databases in other states. Everyone out there needs to be aware and concerned as hell, and be ready to jump up and let's make a lot of noise. Let's exercise that First Amendment.
You know, I'd like to say that every club that I know that we've looked at, you know, the clubs weed their bad actors. Law enforcement is going to have to. They're going to have to, because the consequences of it are what's going on right now. That's the truth of it. And the courts are the same way. They're going to have to weed out these bad actors, these bad judges, these good old boy systems. They're going to need to follow the Constitution as written. As written. Nobody that has never committed a crime, and even clubs that have not committed a crime, should not be in that gang database. And let me say this. Many of the times that crimes happen, the club doesn't even know about it. Don't even know about it. This is a reflection on the rest of our society. There's good and bad everywhere. And let me tell you, the lure of drugs and easy money is one of the big culprits. But yet our country is failing to get the job done. Why? Because they're doing things like chasing motorcycles up and down the damn highway. Just my opinion. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Like and subscribe. Have a great evening, a great week.
Be safe.
Be safe, everybody. Be safe.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Well,